The first rule to secret alliances is you don't talk about secret alliances. But that's pretty hard. It's really hard to make secret alliances work, and there's not a lot of good examples of that occurring, especially in the most recent years. Secret alliances are really difficult, and yet they're incredibly successful, as we're currently seeing with Big Brother 28. So let's talk about secret alliances today. Secret alliances obviously are in the house right now. You have what we now know to be called the crossover, the Drew, Devons, Angela, and Barrett, who are a secret alliance of five. They're never all in the same room together, and they're often very separate. And I was just watching on feeds before I turned off of Jason spilling a lot to Drew, think about how much he's against Devons and the vets. And of course, this is great to Drew's ears because it's like, oh, great, I have some info to give Devons. I have ways to prove my allies that I'm trustworthy. And it's terrible for Jason. But a lot of why that can occur is because of the existence of a secret alliance. It's hard to make true secret alliances in the game. You can create clusters, but often a lot of Big Brother revolves around you spending a lot of time figuring out who's working with who and figuring out based on flows of information, based on who's with whom at what time, based on tracking when people are together. Um, and one of the keys to that working is like one of the keys to why alliances are like often caught is because naturally you're going to have to spend time with your alliance mates. Naturally, you're going to have to connect and be with others. But the thing that makes a secret alliance so powerful is they're really hard to suss out because there's not a lot of evidence you get to gather. The cookout famously didn't even meet all in the same room till day 50 something, 60 something. And it's like really telling that, hey, even if you wanted to, it was just impossible. Like the alliance was literally like six people in the house, of six of the last eight people in the house, and the other two people had no clue. Because at the end of the day, um, when you have a secret alliance, you don't have like there's not evidence to spot it. The thing that makes secret alliance so really tricky is that you have to not provide a lot of evidence, which means you can't meet a lot. And in a lot of seasons, I think secret alliances are incredibly hard to form because of that meeting component. You think about like when I think about the secret alliances that really worked, you're looking at BB22 kind of with the committee. You're looking at BB 23 with the cookout. You're looking at this season right now with the crossovers. You're looking at 25 with the you're looking at 25 with the crossroads, right? These are kind of the main tenets of the secret alliance structure. You could kind of include the leftovers in there, but really this is a later thing, right? But these are your sort of key early examples of secret alliances. Let's start with the committee, the KKK committee, or whatever we want to call it. They were formed by Memphis and BB22. He had this sort of pitch of like an alliance that never meets with each other. Um, the committee worth noting, was a fake alliance to everyone but Memphis. It became a way for a lot of the core structure to keep Memphis in. But the show loved talking about the committee. And to be fair, like the exact specifications of that alliance were never super clear to a lot of the house guests. Now, it was pretty obvious that there were these clusterings, but the committee did not meet much in person. A lot of the success of the committee was that secrecy, and then it was also things like the core four within it that sort of kept things moving. If you were in the committee, you knew about the committee, and you knew that this was a group you could trust. Partly because they were all woven in a million different alliances, but it was like, okay, we're in this thing together. Um, on the other hand, if you were outside of it, there wasn't as many instances of being able to see it. And this committee is really the worst example of this recently. The most famous example in BB history, of course, is the cookout and then the brigade. In 23, we have the cookout, who, a group of black players who were like, hey, there's never been a black winner. Let's make sure that happens. It's unspoken that this is a needed goal. This comes on the rise of BB21, of Devon and BB22, and Devon and Bailey and BB22, and Devon's really meaningful speech. And they said, hey, we're not going to be in the same room as each other ever. And we're going to basically be able to keep people out of the loop because we're never going to be together. And then eventually it's the pairing strategy with Tiffany's master plan. But even before then, right? Like there was all these other alliances going on at the same time, but it was always like this group is committed to working together no matter what. They're never going to be in the same room. And one of the things you notice with the cookout, which is one of the things I actually find really fascinating about the Secret Alliance, is because they never meet in the same room, they're always sharing info with each other in this like circle. It's like, hey, anytime you and I are in the same room at the same time and there's no one else in this room, boom, we switch to cookout talk, right? We switch and we share all the info we have. And then we move forward after we share that info. There's that flip. There's a sort of rule in social strategy that you want to feel if you want to feel safe, you have to make it feel like you're in a safe and fun and positive environment. And one of the keys to like flipping the switch and really talking hard game as soon as you're alone is it says, hey, we're safe now. Now we're in a situation where we can commit to each other. Um, it sort of creates some shared trust because you're saying, hey, I'm not sharing stuff with everyone, with all these people, just with you. Um, I think, and like, which is really key and really important and valuable. So the cookout does this. Tiffany's master plan really sort of drives it home because you're always going to be talking with your pair. You're always going to be targeting your pair. Meanwhile, and which creates a lot of safety and comfortability. But not only are you always targeting your pair, you're also always, um, how do I describe this? You're always spending the most time with your pair. You're always spending the most time with other pairs. You're never as a group. And so, which is so key. You look at 25, the Crossroads, same sort of idea. Sari, Corey, Jared, and Izzy, right? Jared, Izzy, and Sari were in it together a lot, and especially in the opening, right? Like Corey was the same way. Like Corey would spend some time with Izzy, Corey would spend some time with Sari, but they were never all in the same room that often, which created at times trust issues, but it was also really where a lot of the power comes from because people are going to share info with Jared. People are going to share info to Sari. People are going to share info to Izzy, etc. And they will always share the info with each other and then they can relay it out. But of course, they share it in pairings, they don't share it to the cluster at the same time. Um, and one of the things this does, this sort of like sharing in a circle tactic does, is not only creates this insecurity, I think it also creates this constant flow of information. You get into the practice as a group of always sharing info with each other whenever you hear. It's saying, hey, I see you now, we're together, here's my speed info dump. Um, which is such a different pace and feel from anything else a player will have gone through in that day being like, hey, I've been listening to these slow ass talks. Now we're talking. It's like, boom, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. Right? There's a different sense of pacing and trust with the flow of information. And then you're going to relay that. And there's a constant game of telephone being played. But then the players are also always like reaffirming and reconnecting to their telephone. I think there are real challenges to this form of strategy. One of the big ones is the flow of information can sometimes be a little staggered. Um, Especially when there's not a sense of urgency like there isn't right now with D, where there's some info D could probably really use that is kind of out there that she won't get till after the noms are set because of the slower pace. If everyone was together, let's meet before noms, let's share everything, things are much more likely to fully get out and there be time to make changes of plan. But unfortunately, I think Ashley's still going no matter what. And of course, this time we have Drew, the Angela, etc. of the Crossroads, and they're doing the same approach of, hey, we're all together. Great, let's talk strategy right now. Here's my info, here's my info. You watch people like Angela say, hey, here's my run of the day. Here's what I did. Here's the things I think are relevant. Let me give you everything. And she does it all in this chunk, and she gives it to you, and then you move on with your day. And it's so different from what most other players do. The other thing that happens is there's always this effort to say, hey, here's what we talked about. Here's the backup plan. Here's the way we're not suspicious. And even if it's a little suspicious, it happens. But there's always, and then there's the shared agreement of what we're lying about. And then you go on, and because you're not all together, doesn't have to be this excuse for why this grouping of five has been meeting up all the time, right? Instead, the excuse is like, oh, we were just chatting about this, or this is how we were talking game, but we weren't talking the game the same way. So overall, Secret Alliance is really important. Secret Alliance is really powerful. But one of the problems with Secret Alliance is that if you're a new player, it's harder to make because you don't have the same level of trust. Like one of the big things that makes some of these alliances successful, the Crossroads is built on Sari and Izzy. Izzy knows and Jared. Izzy knows Jared. Jared knows Sari, obviously, because they're mother and son. Izzy knows Sari. And so there's this like innate sense of trust and there's a built-in bond. So then they bring Corey, who of course has his own personal connection to Survivor, but is also sort of like ends up being sort of that fourth person. Um, and but Corey's often a little on the outs of this group for obvious reasons. But there's a key initial reason to trust everyone. With the cookout, there's a clear initial reason to all work together. Where the game I think gets really tricky, and the Secret Alliance is so successful, but it's also so hard to implement at a large scale, is because the how do I describe this? The game relies on this strategy relies on trust that hasn't been built yet. You know, with the crossovers, you have Angela, Dee, and Devins. They don't need to talk much. They all know what they have to do at the beginning. If I'm with vets, great. I have to work with all my vets to start the game. Eventually, we can backstab each other, but not right now. Not until mid phase. You know, that's the earliest we should be doing it. It's like so for now, it's like we're working together. Great, we're a team. Instant. It's all. Um, but and then they pull in Barry, who's a very capable player, Drew, who's a very capable player, and there's this like built-in trust, like, hey, we're this thing. Here's this info that proves we're all together. Where this is harder is if it's all newbies, because at that point you're either a lot of early connections are gonna be driven by clicks, or they're like there's not a piece of information that guides them. It's like, hey, we're all bros. That's a way to get to like the Brigade gets there, right? Hey, we're all black. That's the way the cookout gets there. And with obviously black, but more specifically, there's clear fundamental goals that are bigger than the game to commit to, right? With cookout. Broing out is a little different. Pretty Boy is kind of the same sort of thing with BB Can. But with real this kind of strategy, you have to find allies quickly. To do a really successful secret strategy, you have to find allies quickly, and you have to have a high enough level of trust for them that you guys can truly be secret. Which is so hard. Um, it's not fundamentally super easy to do, but it's also so powerful. And it's one of the reasons it's like there's like unfair advantages to having so many vets, is because they do have some of these strategies that are way easier to pull off. Um, Typically, the Secret Alliance, when it works best these days, is like the pairing that's together because they have like a shared background, or it's like we're a duo, like we're a secret duo who's working the game together. Often they come sort of the mid early phase. I think where Secret Alliances can really thrive is that like mid early game where a like week two HOH is like, okay, I want to create the structure. Can I correctly pick the right people to bring in? But I think it's really hard, and I don't think there's a clear, easy way to pull it off. But it's also the best strategy in the game. So, you know, it's one of those things where it's like high skill ceiling required, but really high reward. Um, Now, if you mess it up, it's just a normal alliance, assuming you pick people who are at least trustworthy, right? And now, if you pick people who, of course, are untrustworthy, then your alliance is leaked and you've got no alliance. But you still have some connections, you still have some allies, you still have some things to work with. Um, but of course, one of the things we didn't really talk about uh, is part of why you should really be implementing this. Because right now, in the situation of the vets who are kind of together, pretty obviously, but then the other pieces of the Secret Alliance aren't super clear. And so those other pieces are getting info. Drew is getting lots of info from Selena. Barrett gets info from Mallory, from Taylor, some of the people who are like Yeah, I want to take out D. And then Barrick can be like, hey, D, just so you know, Mallory wants to do this. Hey, Devin, just so you know, Jason will not shut up about you. Um, but it's been a fun season so far. I'm excited to see where things go. Today was the day things got really interesting for me. And I'm excited to talk about it. I apologize if I come across as a little low energy. It is 2:41 in the morning, and I am ready to go to bed. But I was too busy watching good feeds, so we have that. At some point, I'll do some more ranting because there's things to rant about. Like, what the fuck is Jason doing right now? Oh, it's a mess. You know what? Maybe that's the talk. We'll talk about screen time and Jason and all that jazz. Oh, I guess meal. Well, thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your day. This was day 3 of the BB28 Companion. Bye.